We're back. Day 6.
What?
Is it 6? No, is it 5? I don't even know what day it is.
You just want to get it over with. It's like, day 6, guys. And they were like, yeah, day 6.
No, we'll use this tomorrow. We'll use this for tomorrow's one. For tomorrow's intro.
Day 6.
Day 5? Is it 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Day 5? 5?
I felt like
5?
I felt like it was day 5 was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Today.
Fucking hell. Yeah, day 5. How you feeling? How you feeling?
I don't know, dude. I don't know how I feel. Just being crazy. Just, I never thought that doing nothing would be so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I haven't done nothing this much for like such a long time. But at the same time, I feel like when I do something back there, that kind of feels like nothing. It's like it's so much harder just to do nothing, like actively do nothing, than it is when you're just sitting here being nothing. If you know what I mean.
What?
Like when you're back home,
Yeah.
and you're like doing nothing, or you're like just
chilling.
chit bored, just going through shit. Time passes so slowly, but when you're just sitting here doing nothing, it's like it's just going like that. It's like I already thought it was day 6, but it's like it's day 5. It's because the days are just flying, even though we're doing nothing, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So, any interesting realizations today, or any conclusions or anything you want to share?
Well, I mean, I no longer make conclusions. I just take notes. Conclusions are not my thing anymore.
Okay.
But I guess today was what I shared to you earlier in the morning, like just seeing that, like what the self was doing. Or I mean, when I say self, I mean me, because the self it's me, yeah. But
Is it you?
no, it's me in the sense that my current sense of self, my self-image, it's me. And it's my mind. But anyways, so, yeah. So I noticed that, like, I was trying to get to that state again, like to experience the same thing. And I was seeing a bunch of resistance, emotional resistance. And I was like, what the fuck? And I realized, like, the self was the one doing that, and it was trying to control it. It was trying to, like, get there, get now, like, but it was like in very subtle ways. And then from that thing, that realization came a bunch of others. Like, this is just one way the self control, like the self as you on the grip. It's like through the sense of control, sense of security. Yeah, like the need for control, the need for security, the need for validation, and the need to stay alive. And it just controls you with these needs, making them seem like they're actually real. Like you need those things in order to actually succeed or actually have good life. Like it gives you that sense of like you need them, but actually you don't need them. I mean, it's good to have them, but like you don't fucking need them. But the self feels as like a lot of grip on, or a lot of attachment to those strong needs. And so yeah, I was just realizing how retarded it is, and that you actually don't need any of those things. But the self uses those things to keep yourself, to keep the entanglement, basically.
I got into a different kind of entanglement.
Okay.
Like the entanglement between the real self and the self.
An entanglement?
You use those for that, like to make it more real and to keep itself alive and entangled. the longer you will do it, the better for the self, the better for the mind to keep grip and control of you. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, we spoke a lot today, a lot more than yesterday. Because yesterday we were keeping mainly to silence. But some of the things that we discussed today were related to kind of what you talked about there and how that entanglement between the self and the real self is so much like it has a grip on most people, and what you've experienced was kind of that little bit of separation, but now because of you experienced the separation, you're trying to experience it again, and that actually trying to experience it is coming from the self, the not the real self, but the actual self that is trying to take back control, and even actually trying to take control is like it's a characteristic of self.
And it's the defense mechanism
Right.
as well. Because when you're trying to take control, is that you actually resisting the present moment. So
Right.
it actually creates it's a subtle way that the mechanism of the mind to keep yourself away from getting that back to that place where
Right.
it doesn't exist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I've experienced something very similar today as well. Maybe I had like a little bit of a mystical experience yesterday, not really so much, but a bigger one the day before, and today was not at all. But it was mainly because the self was just taking control of everything. It was throwing thoughts at me like crazy, and in the morning it was kind of difficult to not fall into the train of thoughts with it. And some of the thoughts were kind of like about the experience, and it was trying to like make sense of the experience and trying to reframe things from the past based on new information. And even that, when it was doing that, I didn't recognize it was doing that. I was just going along with the reframing, and then when I realized it was doing that, it was kind of like a lot later into the process. And then I was like, wait, it's actually doing that while I'm thinking. Like, it just blew my mind.
That's the fucked up part, is like you're trying to play like a game against yourself,
Basically.
and the game is like it's your thoughts that are playing with you. And so if it's your thoughts and you identify with them, then it's like a weird game. Like you're playing a game to basically be in presence, so you don't are in mind, and so you actually more in touch with your real self in presence. And then, but then you get into a thought process or whatever, or train of thought, and then you just get lost in it. But but like you think, oh, I'm just having these thoughts.
Yeah, that was it. And it didn't look a bit the other way around.
And it's so weird, like for people that listen to this, because we sound like maniacs talking about like the self, the real self. Like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably have to watch the whole series.
Yeah, like it sounds like so weird. Like what the fuck is these people talking about?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So yeah, if you didn't watch the previous ones, I guess, like, believe it or not, you yourself doesn't exist. The self doesn't exist. It's like the way I put it now, it's like was a survival mechanism that was created early on in the creature's life, and then was just kept going based on momentum and building more assumptions and beliefs, and just created like a sense of self completely based off assumptions, like bad interpretations of situations, very distorted. So basically none of that is just actually factual and real. Like, it's all a construct of your mind. Even like the way you use language unconsciously, thinking that that's like somehow entangled with like reality and language, like it's in such a way that it seems like language it's reality. You know,
Yeah.
because you look at things and you just see the things for the word that language gives. What do you say? Like labels them as, and you don't see the real thing. You just see the word. That's the analysis. I just project the word onto everything, any word, any meaning. And then you do that with words, but then you even do that with worse things, which is like meanings for situations, for things you experience.
Yeah.
And they're completely not real. They're just very subjective. Like they're just like completely random, really. And you just created like this random sense of self that was just like nothing factual about it, even though it feels like that. That's why everyone is entangled with it, because it feels so real, but there's nothing real about it.
Yeah, I mean, myself kind of recognized that today. But even in recognizing that, I realized that going outside of here, even if I completely destroy this self, the new self will be created. So what I'm looking to do while I'm here is to really deconstruct patterns from my old self. So it's like when the time comes to recreate the new self, what are the patterns from the old self that I can get rid of that are no longer serving me to move up to the next level? So what I've been doing this afternoon as part of the meditation process is like getting to the state of presence, like getting not fully present, but getting to the state when I can feel some presence in me, and then breathing, and then going into a thought, but a thought directed by me, related to the old self and specific behavior patterns and ones that I can improve on. And it's funny, like I looked at my old self, kind of like you mentioned a video game character yesterday. So I saw him as a video game character, and I could see like all the statistics, like on FIFA where they have like all the stats, and I could see like things like people pleasing and action taking and like all of these with like numbers next to them, like stats. And it's like, okay, what actions do I need to take to like increase the numbers or decrease the numbers where it needs to be? So just because it's inevitable that when I leave here, I'm not going to leave here with no self. It's like, even if this one is destroyed, a new one will be created, but how can I go about creating one that will better serve the purpose of the ultimate goal?
What's the ultimate goal?
It's full enlightenment. It's transcendence into oneness and
Liberation.
completeness.
Okay, yeah, that's I think an important point to touch on, is like we're speaking about no self, and shit, people like, what does that even mean? Like, that means that I should give up on my life?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, no, that doesn't mean that. What means is that that's the ultimate goal to get to. That's what people call enlightenment, is like realizing that it, like actually embodying the fact there is no self, and the self is actually the universal self. That's the self. That's the real self. The self the existent self. That's the only self that really is the real one. Every other one is constructed by the mind. Because that's like, I wouldn't even count the other creatures, because the other creatures don't have enough consciousness to construct concepts or whatever. So they just like doing whatever they do. They're programmed to do, and just they don't think about it. They don't have thoughts, so they're lucky.
They don't have thoughts, but we project people onto them. It's like, I know people who have cats and clothes for the cats, and then they create a personality for those cats based on human personalities.
That's the biggest projection there.
Yeah.
The cat understands him.
And yeah, we do that to other people as well, where if we don't fully know them, we just, based on someone we've met in the past, we're like, oh, this person's like that person, therefore they must be like this. And then you just project everything you thought about the last person, because you didn't really know the last person. You projected onto the last person, but then you project the same thing onto the next one.
That's the crazy thing, is like, the further you go through life with this illusion, the more distorted it gets, because the more like it's like when you tell a story, when you tell another story, it's a little bit tweaked and a little bit tweaked, and then it just adds up in this huge train of tweaks, and this goes like to the biggest lie ever. When like initially like initially it was just a bit small lie, and then it just builds up to this fucking crazy amalgam of like a pyramid of fucking bullshit. That was like a video, actually. You guys should check it out from actualize.org, where he has like a video which says like society is bullshit, and his whole video is like
dating is full of shit, pickup is full of shit, relationships are full of shit, marriage is full of shit, monogamous people are full of shit, polyamorous people are full of shit.
Society's full of shit. Everybody's full of shit, and now I understand what he means. Like it's literally like that. It's like full of shit. Like everyone is just bullshitting themselves and each other. Like full of shit, fucking full of shit. But yeah. Anyways, so you were talking about like explaining like the fact that it's like, okay, the realization there is no self means that shouldn't mean that you should give up on your life, or like, or be like just be like hopelessness, or like that doesn't matter anything. I'm not even existing or whatever. So what's the point? Yeah, I think you made a good point there. Is like it's not even about just now going to enlightenment just right now. Like what you can do is just like you did, like analyze where you currently at and how do you get closer to it. Like how do you evolve yourself and how do you make yourself better, and the consequence, you get closer, you get more godlike, or closer to be more godlike like that. But doesn't mean you're gonna become no self, because that's a long life process to do. Yeah,
and it's a long process, and like as I started it, I noticed that when I went to presence and went into those thoughts, I was way more honest. I was able to be honest, whereas like when I'm in the mind and trying to analyze myself, there's always the lying to myself aspect, where the mind is trying to placate to myself, where it doesn't want to challenge me too much. So it will say things that maybe I don't believe, or it's not true. But when I went to the state of presence and then analyzed it, I felt even looking at it as like a video game character, I was able to see from a different perspective and see it more honestly. And
yeah, I think that's a big point. Is like most people don't lack self-awareness, and they trust the mind to make life decisions, or to make decisions for whatever next step of their life. And usually that's the worst mistake ever. Like trusting your own mind to make to think out those decisions is just gonna give you more of what you got. Like it's not gonna give you, because the mind, if you are locked in a certain paradigm, in a certain way of thinking, acting, feeling, then the mind just gonna reinforce more of that. She's just gonna give you more of that. So going there to realize, to try to move to, okay, maybe if it's more like horizontal, like getting better horizontally, so in the same paradigm, getting better and ranking up in that, yeah, maybe I can help you with that. But like going to the next paradigm, you can't look for the mind. The mind just gonna give the self-fulfilling prophecy, the reinforcement. So you gotta like question the questioning process itself, the mind's questioning process itself, or the conclusions that the mind does, and look for opinions and people that contradict everything you believe in, contradict everything you think. Like you gotta go against the grain of your mind. Like if your mind just tells you all kinds of like things, and you just look for stuff online, material, videos that kind of tell you the same things that your mind already telling you, then you're just making yourself dig your heels more and more into that way of seeing the world, into that reality. So you have to really like find people that, I think with this comes a lot of self-awareness and I think critical thinking is important as well, because you have to like self-honesty as well. But like you have to really be honest with yourself and like really see where you at. Usually the mind always will tell you that you're much better than you actually are, or you're much higher than you think, than you actually are. And so you have to really kind of like double, triple check if this is actually true, instead of just like buying into the first thought that's like, oh no, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta like maybe get I think ideally get mentors or get people that are already where you want to be, and so they will point out all these blind spots, all this shit that the mind is blocking off from you because you cannot see it. It's outside of your reality. So you have to find ways, either that or just like, yeah. And then critical thinking, yeah. I think that's the biggest issue. Like usually people don't have critical thinking, and that what happens is that they look for advice. Either the advice reinforces what they know, or it's too advanced for their stage. Either one of the two, and both of them don't gonna change their life.
Yeah.
You just gotta find advice that's a little bit above your stage, and not like too above or at the same level, because then you just both stay stuck. Because the two above is not gonna take you away from where you are, and the same stuck just reinforces it. So both keep you stuck. So I think that's a big one that people have to cultivate, because usually people have just programmed since child like this sheep like thinking of like, okay, that person, let me follow that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Like, or that person thinks like, oh, I like that person, I can relate with that person, so let me follow that person. But like usually, like if you can relate with that person, probably not the right person, because you shouldn't relate with the person that you want to be. Like if you relate with that person, it means that she's probably pretty much at your level, in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind
That's interesting. And yeah, you gave, I think having mentors is important, and you gave some interesting feedback today, which was something that I never considered before, related to the spiral dynamics and how I may have some unresolved blue within me that I've completely overlooked because I just assumed I was over it. And even looking at specific behavior patterns, like if I was to classify, like that's what I started to do, was like classify all the behavior patterns, and there's like a lot of them fall into blue, and it's like that part of me hasn't evolved past that yet, where it should be. So I think those kind of like little details where you have like a blind spot because your mind is not gonna, like, well, my mind in this situation didn't make that connection between two things. It's like it has this one piece of information about spiral dynamics, has this other piece of information about an area that I'm lacking, but it doesn't make the connection between the two. And there's probably loads of other things where there's two bits of information out there that I have in the mind, but the mind isn't going to connect the two to say this plus this equals to this. That means you need to do this. So yeah, that's very, very difficult to find those.
Yeah, like the mind is gonna always, it's not gonna want you to feel inferior in some way. It wants you to make you feel superior. So even if you find something, like for example, maybe you didn't want to like still have blue shadow to work on, and you were like, I don't know, I'm over blue, I'm like those retards, I'm superior, I'm already like orange above. And so it was hard for you. Maybe I even saw in your reaction, you're like, because it was like the ego was like, that can't be true.
To be honest, if you told me that maybe even though 2 weeks ago or a week ago, I would have completely dismissed it. But it's like, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is like, the thing that I thought, if I could take one thing away from this whole experience, what would it be if I could only apply one thing in my life? And that would be that I didn't want, just because I know something intellectually doesn't mean I actually know it. And it's like, if I had the ability to like actually do or embody what I know intellectually, I feel like it would be a fucking quantum leap in where I am at. Because what I know intellectually compared to what I embody, it's like a big mismatch. So it's like that kind of information. It's like maybe I would have known it intellectually and just pushed it to the side because it doesn't agree with what my mind has an image of who I am. The mind has this image of like, this is what the mind has created, like you are this person, and anything that doesn't agree with it, it just pushes it to the side as even advice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for a lot of people is like you have to question yourself, what do you want? To feel good about yourself, feel superior, or do you want to improve yourself?
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Because you can't get both. Like you can't feel superior. Like that's the thing with change. Like you have to be humble. Yeah. And most egomaniacs, they might feel like they're the greatest, but they suck ass. Like you want to feel the greatest and suck ass, or you actually want to be great and feel humble about it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question, and I think for the longest time, even though I would have answered like, yeah, I want to improve, deep down I really didn't, because I was quite happy with the person who I became, because it helped me to get out of a situation. So it's like I was like, this person, the person that I turned into helped me out of a bad situation. So why would I want to change that? That's probably the mind had like this kind of hold on me saying, we've just created a new version because you said the old version wasn't good. You want us to create another version. What the fuck? Why would we do that? So that's kind of the rationalization behind trying to stay the same. Is the mind wanted to stay there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is like when someone usually jumps from one paradigm to another, it's very likely that can get stuck there. Yeah. Maybe for the lifetime. Because the longer like you feel better, you feel elevated when you jump to the next one, and then it starts working out for you in any way or form, and then you start seeing results from it, and so you get attached to this new way, and then the longer you go in this new way, the harder it will be for you to tell yourself that this is actually not the greatest. I fucked up for like whatever years that you've been into. So that's one of the biggest traps. And then of course the mind will always rationalize anything. So in order to save energy and to keep itself alive, it will rationalize like anything really, like anything it wants. It can rationalize the craziest things. It can rationalize it and just find reasons why it wasn't, and it will seem very real for the person. Like you feel like real as like 100% real.
Yeah, some of the things I've experienced, seeing the mind, how it works, it's kind of like being able to see from behind the curtains, and you see like this is the thing that was being controlling me the whole time, and the whole time I felt like I had control over it. And that illusion is so real. That illusion that you're the one controlling the mind, when actually it's the other way around.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And that's been a big revelation for me this whole trip.
Yeah, like that's the biggest trick. Is like it's like you. How everyone. Like, how is it possible that everyone feels they're right, they know what they're doing, and like everything that they know it's correct? It's like, how they are so certain? Like we think about this because it means that the mind does an amazing job making this illusion seem the most real and tangible thing that is. That's what makes it so unreal. It's how real it looks. It seems. It makes it so unreal, the fact that it seems so real, but it's actually just an illusion.